Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
She is provoked into a rampage that has landed her in prison, and now she is seen only for the raging spirit that dwells within her.
So the opening scene of the finale is a blast. Can you talk a little bit about filming it?
Yeah, that was so much fun. I remember Mark and I think that was the first sequence we did, was like Mark and I standing rigidly next to each other in 70s gear, which I wish we could wear those clothes every day. But he and I like watched back that little clip over and over. And we shot like 50 different versions of it. And it was just so much fun. It was so fun to like allude back to this history that these characters have, you know. It was just a blast.
One of my favorite stories from shooting this opening is that the bodybuilder who's painted green, his name was Devin Lewis. And he said, when I was a little boy, I dreamed about growing up to be the Hulk. I didn't quite imagine that it would pan out like this, as he stood in his floor-length evening gown. But he was so game and so fun, and it's a dream sequence, essentially. And so we just had a lot of license to be goofy and to lean into the cheesiness of the era.
What would your ideal scenario be for She-Hulk season 2?
Oh boy, I don't really have a good answer for that, because, you know, how I feel in this moment is like, how my friends with kids describe having their first baby is they've just had their first baby and everybody immediately starts asking them, when are you going to have a second baby? And they're like, I literally just given birth. I'm still in the labor and delivery wing.
I am no writer, and I know that whatever they cooked up for her would be surprising and unexpected. And that's all I could hope for, because that really does feel like the spirit of the show. You know, like that finale, when I read it, I was like, oh my God, we get to do this. They're going there with this. They've gone to the full extent of the meta of it. And we're getting to like reclaim a story. And that just felt so special to me and so important and so irreverent. And like, you know, it was just amazing. So whatever it is, I just hope it continues in that tradition of like really bucking the trends and really flipping things on their head.
Look, I think we have set She-Hulk up to go in so many different directions, where she could, you know, go join Daredevil. She could go into a movie with Bruce. She could have a second season as a human lawyer. She could go to outer space. And to me, that speaks to, you know, the respects that we paid to the comics, because I think comic books kind of always leave you with that idea that you could go anywhere. And that's what we wanted to do with this series. And because Marvel doesn't follow any rules and you don't necessarily have to have a, you know, traditional season 2, like the world is She-Hulk's oyster.
So in the spirit of cuts, before this series premiered, you mentioned that there was a post-credit scene for almost every episode, and only I think 4 or 5 made it to Disney Plus.
5. Yeah, well, there's 5. I mean, the late to middle episodes, like 5 through 8, some of them, like the last scene, we went back and forth over whether or not that should be a tag or if that should be part of the end of the actual episode itself.
You took your time.
Emil, my apologies for the delay.
Yeah. You got sucked into another show, didn't you?
We're really in an era of peak TV.
So far as Jen's turning point in the series goes, do you feel like it was more intelligentsia or her losing She-Hulk, something that she thought she never wanted to begin with, that made her shift into really embracing heroism for the first time?
I think it's both of those things, under the same sort of idea of having her choice removed from her, the choice taken away from her. So whether it's the choice to have that video played publicly, or the choice to engage with someone sexually who you know is safe, or the choice to be She-Hulk and not have that option taken away from you by someone who deems you unable to deal with it or control it. That's what it's about. So it's it's like kind of the collision of all of those things being a big realization that she has had no choice in any of this. Weirdly, that's like what happened to her initially. She didn't have any choice in being She-Hulk. But as she starts to grow to understand how that is inside of her and who that is inside of her, and that she is that. She's able to reclaim that choice and actually go in and be like, this isn't good enough.
Oh, wow. She-Hulk.
I'm here to see Kevin. It's urgent.
Well, I love that at the end of the series, she's reached this place of acceptance of her two sides of self. And I've always described it like, as a very human experience. We all have the kind of shy, small version of ourselves, and then the big, outgoing, extroverted version of ourselves. And at the end, we see her at a family dinner, and then we see her on the steps of the courthouse serving attitude. And I love the idea that when the new, iteration of She-Hulk begins, she is at this place of acceptance. And so, it becomes more about bigger elements. And now that she's accepted being a superhero, she can now take on some of these more traditional superhero stories.
Jen, please stop.
Oh, and when are we getting the X-Men?
I cannot tell you that.
Okay, back to She-Hulk.
The sitcom format is perfect for this series, but it's also got its constraints with shorter episodes. Were there any angles, not just this one, but throughout the season, that you wish you had more time than the 35 minutes?
This was always envisioned to be a 30-minute sitcom. And I do think that the 30-minute sitcom lends itself really well to this show specifically, because I really wanted the show to be episodic. I wanted you to be able to just pop in and watch one episode and have a good time and felt like you watched a complete story. Even if there was a seasonal arc, that when you tell people about a favorite episode, you could say, oh, it was the wedding one, or it was the retreat one, that you would be able to even just describe it in a phrase. That really was the goal. I think the 30-minute format fits well. I mean, there was a lot of stuff cut from every episode just for like time or like, production reasons or what have you, but it never felt like there wasn't enough time for story.
And then we will find them and we will destroy them by any and all means.
Legally.
I said by any and all means.
No, I am going to sue them for defamation and invasion of privacy and get them charged with unauthorized access to a protected computer.
Ugh, boring. All right, if you want to be all Jen Walters about it. Yeah, that's cool.
The revenge porn angle of the penultimate episode is such a huge swing, not just for a legal comedy, but anything that we've seen in the MCU so far. And then we don't really see it get reconciled with in the finale. Was there ever a different way that you were planning on going with that? Or was what we saw what we were always going to get?
It was actually pretty late in the game that it always just felt like it needed to be something just really so personal and intimate, and felt like such a violation that you viscerally felt it, because we really needed her to have this very, very visceral and emotional reaction to what was happening and what she was seeing.
I think the way it was handled after was always part of the plan. Part of, I think, the trauma of having something like that happen to you is you don't want to talk about it all the time, and she does want justice, but it's not something that she's going to bring up. It really takes Nikki, in a way, championing for her. And I think that's very true to the story of any woman who has been violated, and that's part of why it's allowed to continue the way it is because people don't want to talk about it.
We wanted to end the series showing that she is now going to go after them all legally. This is the kind of thing where, yeah, she can beat up a guy, but really Jennifer Walters, the lawyer, the lifelong, person who believes in justice, is going to do it her way, which is to pursue legal action and really, really take them down in a more permanent way.
Just do it.
I'll see you in court, babe.
So the way she defies expectations has been a major role, but it's also the first time that we've seen female sexuality actually highlighted in really any way in the MCU. Can you talk about why that was so important for you to include?
Because she's a woman in her 30s navigating life, and dating and sex is a part of that. And we always wanted, I think part of what I love about the show is kids love it, grown-ups love it, old people love it. And I always wanted it to feel accessible, but also feel realistic and not have sex be taboo. And especially, you have Iron Man, he had a lot of sex, so why can't She-Hulk?
We smash things. Bruce smashes buildings, I smash fourth walls and bad endings. And sometimes Matt Murdock.
I gotta squeeze in a relationship question, but I promise it's She-Hulk related.
Sure.
Is there any chance that we will see Jen in Daredevil Born Again, given their relationship status?
I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know. I wish I could be coy about it, but I truly do not know. I'd love to.
Jen, I'm here to help.
Hey, Daredevil. You missed it. We're done. Sorry.
Everything? Oh, man.
It was great, though. And I'm happy to see you.
Oh, thanks. Oh, happy to see you, too.
Oh, my God. Did they hook up? Are they a thing?
Yeah, let's take it down a notch, Pug.